Is the 2015 Ford Expedition still a good choice for a spacious family hauler? Today we're going to take a deep dive into its performance, features, and real-world reliability. Welcome back to the channel. This is my wife and I's 2015 Ford Expedition EL XLT. Oh, that is a mouthful, and I don't think we featured it on the channel. I haven't made videos for you guys in a couple of years until Ford recently gave me an Escape to review. So here we are with the Expedition, because my project has been to review everything from the Ford Focus all the way up to the Expedition, because these cars are getting cheap. Anyways, they're getting to be practically priced for your practical family. With that said, let's go ahead and dive right into it. I've been able to review a number of vehicles on this channel, from the most basic of cars all the way up to the nicest lap of luxury that money can buy. And this Expedition XLT fits somewhere in the middle. They've made this third generation since 2007 all the way up to 2017. 10 years of this body style. That makes this Expedition unmistakably Ford. I do love the aggressive front grille, the large headlights, and the fog lights that you get on the 2015. Also see we have a nice set of towing hooks right there, and the rest of the car is extremely boxy. The rear end of the car widens and flares up, which is also quintessential Ford. I've always joked that these look like stink bugs because the front of the vehicle dips down while the back end comes up. And in the Expedition, it's no different. In fact, it gets a little bit bigger in the rear. Now, most Expeditions stop somewhere here behind the rear tire, but this particular model is the extended length, or the EL edition, which we will talk about more later in the video. While I personally don't love them, I do need to point out the features of the roof racks on the top of the Expedition. For some reason, they're set back a little bit farther, probably for cargo or ease of use. And then also down here, you get a factory step bar, which again is not my favorite, but this is the XLT, so they're not going to be anything special, but very functional. Now, the XLT comes with these very nice 18-inch alloy rims, which I am a big fan of. If you go up into the higher trim levels, you're going to get the larger rims, the 19s, the 20s. I actually prefer the 18s because they give you more tire and a more comfortable ride. Just a little nitpick: if you do buy an XLT, it's coming with 18s, more than likely, unless they've been swapped out for something larger. But again, that's something easy that you can fix. If you buy the higher trim level and don't like them, you can go down, or if you buy the XLT or the base, you can always go up. But I am a big fan of the 18s. I think it's a perfect size for ride comfort and aesthetic looks. Now, when speaking of the exterior, it's kind of a toss-up. Some people feel that it looks dated. Ford has been making it since 2007, so technically it's dated. Now, the 15s did get some styling updates, but overall it's essentially the same truck as it has been from 2007. I personally think that it looks good on the outside, because you could buy an older model, even a 2007, and it looks newer than it actually is. Now, you buy 2017 and it technically looks older than it is, but take that with a grain of salt. I love the styling on the outside of this vehicle, and like I said, it's quintessentially Ford. Talked about this vehicle being a spacious family hauler, and that is exactly what it is. First impressions of the Expedition XLT when you get in, sit in the driver's seat, is I have more space than I could ever use and know what to do with. I am not very big, I'm 5'9", and sitting here in the front of the Expedition, you can see I'm an arm's length away from the steering wheel. I have room for my own arm to sit on the armrest without touching my passengers. I have room for 4 large or oversized drinks here in the center console. I have a cubby to put stuff. I have a massive spot here that I could honestly fit, I don't know, anything inside of this center console cubby. And I have a little cubby here in my armrest. I have a cubby up here. There's just so much space. This Expedition was truly built with highway driving and road trip travel in mind. From a driver's perspective, in Ford's flagship vehicle of this year is also very nice. Like I was talking about, everything is at the driver's reach. And also on the interior, it's very quintessentially Ford. Very Ford set of window switches, very Ford headlight switch. Got your dimmer switch over here. And then you even get the larger 8-inch touchscreen Sync 1 radio, which I am a fan of. Now, for this being an XLT, it comes practically fully loaded with all sorts of very nice features that if you are not familiar with these newer vehicles, this is going to feel extremely, extremely nice. I think I said in one of my videos that this had the premium Sony sound system, but it does not. However, it does sound very, very good. So this is a must-have if you're searching for one of these Expeditions. I would, if you're buying an Expedition, not settle for anything less than this radio. Now, Sync 1 4.2-inch screen, it's okay. I've lived with it. I've dealt with it. It can sound really good, but who would want the 4-inch screen when you can have an 8-inch screen with the large backup camera here and this beautiful dual climate control radio climate HVAC setup here as well in the middle. Now, the Expedition is a true truck-like dedicated four-wheel drive system with 2 high, 4 auto, 4 high, and 4 low. Most of the time that you're in this vehicle, you'll be driving in 2 high. Once in a while, you'll have to put it in 4 high on some bad and slick roads, which unfortunately, not being all-wheel drive means that you'll have to not exceed 55 miles per hour, but it is a true 4x4 setup in this car, which we absolutely love because this is a massive full-sized vehicle. The Expedition has a 9,200-pound towing capacity, which means it gets an integrated brake controller here. Slide that on to kick your trailer brakes on. Of course, there is no trailer connected, and this will adjust your gain while towing. We have a couple of different driving modes, which is traction control off and hill descent control. I don't know when ever in this entire lifetime you would use hill descent control. In fact, I think it's been turned on once by accident in this vehicle, and I don't know why you'd ever use it, because it practically just lets your vehicle creep down a really steep embankment. And then this isn't a driving mode, somewhat confusing. This is the rear lift gate. We get a nice CD changer here, a couple of different physical button media controls and tuning here with the volume knob, power on off, and the tune over here as well, which we love in today's day and age. I don't know why Ford ever got rid of actual physical buttons, because you can do it here or you can do it up here on your touch screen as well. I've got my different saved presets here. I can scan, I can direct tune. This radio has Bluetooth, line-in SD card, and even USB connectivity, which we love. And this one also has Sirius XM. Climate control system in the XLT is also very thorough. We get cooled, heated seats for both the front driver and passenger seats. And then we get physical buttons for everything, which I love. We have AC controls, all the defrosters, and all of that here in the center. Now it's dual climate control, so at a touch of a button, I can have both on the same temperature if I'm the only one driving, or I can hit dual, and both the passenger and the driver can be completely different temperatures, which I absolutely love. And then because this vehicle is so large, like the Explorer, it gets a rear HVAC as well, which for some reason is turned off, and we're going to turn on. Easily controllable by the driver up front, but also easily controllable by the passengers in back. Just as spacious as the front comes the second row of seats in the Expedition, which is why people love the Expedition. This is perfect for a family of more than 3 kids or whatever. I'm 5'9", and I can sit here in the back seat all the way back without my feet touching the front of the seat at all. The way that the seats fold up, it makes it so easy to get into the third row. And once again, the third row is actually usable in the Expedition. I'm sitting all the way back, and my knees aren't even touching the second row of seats. So if you have enough kids, or if you're a business to where you have to move enough people to consistently use the third row of seats, this is the car that you want, because the next size down, the Explorer, the third row of seats were just thrown in there to say that it has a third row of seats, and it's not very usable and pretty impractical. This is practical. This is almost like a bus, because not only do I have plenty of room back here, I'd be totally comfortable with two buddies back here, and then there's 3 cup holders, 2 on this side, 1 on this side, a little storage cubby here, and a deeper, nope, that's the Suburban, and a little storage cubby here on this side as well. And on top of that, I get vents back here, so I get heat and I get air conditioning. The EL is a little bit longer than the regular Expedition, but that's more in the cargo space in the back. This is the perfect vehicle for a school, for a big family, for somebody that's going to be using this third row of seats, or that needs an extreme amount of cargo space. When I say extreme amount of cargo space, I literally mean there is no shortage of cargo space in the Expedition, especially the EL version. Now, most Expeditions are kind of like the Explorer, where they have a couple feet of cargo storage behind the third row. Not in the EL. I can comfortably sit back here. Now my legs hang out a little bit, but just this amount of cargo space is more than enough to carry all 8 passengers that you can take with you on a very long road trip. Overnight stay. You could even put multiple sets of golf clubs back here. Only gets better from here, because in the XLT you also get power everything. So a power third row that folds down for you. You don't ever have to lift a finger to lift the lift gate or close it. With the third row folded all the way down, you have literally enough space to fit a full dining set back here, which we absolutely love. I could lay down comfortably just behind the second row in here and still have enough room to close the lift gate. But wait, there's more. Second row is not power folding, but it isn't hard to fold either. I barely have to put any effort to get the second row to fold down. Now, I don't want to say that a full couch would fit in here, but I think a full couch would probably be pretty darn close to fitting in here with all of the seats folded down. And with the EL edition, you practically have more space back here than a long bed pickup would. Now, it only takes me about 30 seconds to fold everything down, and about 30 seconds to fold everything back up. Besides the massive amount of cargo space, there's also lots of hidden storage features throughout the truck. So here you get your classic Ford deep side pocket compartments. You also get a cup holder there and a little cubby here. Now, I absolutely love this center console. 4 oversized, super large drink cup holders that are even lighted. And not just lighted, you can change the color of the ambient lighting and different settings. For example, brightness, or when it dims, if it's on or off, etc. Now we have a nice size cubby up here, and even more cubbies up here on the dash, which, you know, we found is kind of annoying to put stuff in, but also kind of a nice spot for a few things. And then you get a massive center console here. I mean, really, really deep. You could store almost anything inside of this. There's your USB connectivity, your aux input, and even a 12-volt charger for all of your charging needs, because you've got another one right there. And even a little coin cubby right there as well. You get a pretty standard sized glove box, which you would actually anticipate being much larger than it is, but it's really just kind of for papers and maybe a few napkins. In the rear of the vehicle, it's no different. Your passengers also get plenty of storage. So they get their deep cubby pocket here in the door panel. Not really a cup holder in this one, whereas in the Explorer there is. Also, you get your door handle cubby here, and you get your seat back storage here as well, which is a deep pouch to put, I don't know, DVDs, magazines, books, toys, anything that you need there. And then of course here's a glimpse of that rear HVAC system. So you have media controls here, which I'm not sure if you can shut the volume off back here, turn it up or down, or if you have to have a headphone to listen to that. You get your 12-volt power port back here, as well as a fully built-in inverter into the truck. You also get complete rear HVAC controls here for the rear, which is a very nice touch, especially on a long road trip. The rear gets 2 deep cup holders there, and 1 nice cup holder here, and a couple of shallow cubbies that go back into the back of the truck there. And then back here in the rear cargo space, you get even more additional and hidden storage. This little shelf divider folds up and clips in right there to become a shelf, so you can put some things up there. And then you get a little bit deeper of a pocket back here to be able to store things like jumper cables or a battery pack or some tools or things that you might need on the road, or even just use it in everyday driving or grocery hauling. That shelf folds easily back down, and then back here you'll also notice a handle, and this comes up to reveal the jack. And for some reason, my spare lug nuts that don't match the rest of the car, which is also a very nice cubby for storage there if you could fit something else in with the jack. Because on this truck, because it is a full-size truck, you get a full-sized spare tire as well. And there's our class 5 towing hitch rated at 9,500 pounds. Every Expedition that I've ever seen and looked at of this generation has this broken seal back here. It costs about $150 to replace, so keep that in mind. Driving the Expedition is actually a really nice experience. If you're not familiar with Ford and these newer Ford vehicles, seeing the size and absolute monstrosity that this vehicle is, you're going to think, wow, that drives like the old Excursions did, or do, I should say. But no, this drives like a quick, nimble, and agile, smaller, much smaller SUV than it actually is. Let me just adjust my memory power seats here and mirrors. Because the Expedition is a full-size 4-wheel drive, it does absolutely amazing in snow. I don't even have to put it into 4-wheel drive to get out from behind my house in 8 inches deep of snow, which most of it's been smashed down at this point. But this is the only vehicle that I can park behind my house because it's the only one capable of getting in and out of this deep, drifty snow. There's snow drifts all in the alley next to it. There's no way I would get through in anything other than this Expedition. All 2015 Expeditions came equipped with the 3.5 liter EcoBoost V6. I really, 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 really wish that Ford had offered other engine options this year. I really wish that they had at least offered the 5.0 liter V8 in the Expedition, but they did not. And I think Ford could have had a lot of sales had they put the 6.7 diesel with a little bit heavier suspension in some of these. Yet again, Ford fails us in terms of engine options on this, but the 3.5 liter EcoBoost is a very reliable, very powerful engine. 365 horsepower at like 412 foot-pounds of torque. Towing with this Expedition, because you can tow with it, you can put 90 to 100 pounds behind this Expedition. Towing is amazing. I love towing with this Expedition. And that sounds really, really weird coming out of my mouth because I am a V8 guy. I love V8s. I've always owned V8s. I grew up around V8s. I grew up towing a lot. And this Expedition, dare I say, tows almost as well as my 2001 Chevy 2500 HD with the 6.6 liter Duramax in it. Now, with that said, you will tow at a massive hit to your fuel economy. While driving in this Expedition, we average between 18 and 21 miles to the gallon on the highway. In town, it drops significantly. It's like 14 in town or something. But if I put any trailer behind it, even a little teeny empty cargo trailer, my fuel economy drops instantly to 9 miles to the gallon. This is not the engine that you want to use for towing. It's hard on them. They're wrapped up all the time. The turbos are always spooled up. They're known to blow head gaskets, blow turbo seals, and things of that nature. But for occasional use towing, you can definitely not only get away with it in the Expedition, but tow more than comfortably in the Expedition. This one has the trailer sway control on it with the integrated trailer controller. This vehicle is set up for towing. I personally would not recommend buying an EcoBoost as a primary towing vehicle. But if you have a large family and you go camping once a year or a couple times a year, or it's kind of like the only large vehicle that you have to tow with, this is going to pull your trailer way better than a 5.3 Chevy in the Suburban would. Now, I haven't driven a 6.0 Suburban set up for towing, so I don't know and can't comment on that. But I would venture a guess that this will out-tow it and out-pull it, because it, in all honesty, has so much torque and so much power behind it, you can't hardly tell there's a trailer there. And some of these Expeditions are supposed to have load leveling shocks in the back. I don't know if this one does, but if it does, they don't work. Lately, I've driven a couple of 3.5 liter naturally aspirated Ford vehicles, and I really miss the EcoBoost. Even this Expedition with the EcoBoost is way faster than an Explorer with the naturally aspirated 3.5. Here's a 0 to 60. Now, again, I'm not a huge fan of V6s, still my least favorite engine on the planet. But these EcoBoosts will blow you away, especially if you're a die-hard old, I love my V8s, V8 type of guy. The EcoBoost is way faster, way more peppy, revs quicker, and it has more power than most V8s have. I am still mind-boggled and blown away by how zippy this truck is. This is a full-size, massive behemoth of a truck, yet it feels like you're driving around a much smaller SUV. I mean, it really feels like, in terms of acceleration, speed, nimbleness, quickness, you're driving around a much smaller SUV. With that said, you're going to notice parking spaces are a little bit tight, and it's hard to maneuver in tight areas like parking lots and things. This truly is built as a highway cruiser or a country driver, not something that you're going to drive just around town to take shopping and things of that nature. Now, my wife and I, we were living in Wyoming, now we're in Idaho. We take a lot of road trips around to see family. Our shortest road trip that we ever take to go see family is 2 hours long. So the Expedition has worked out really well for us. But now, being in Idaho, we're using it more and more to run around to get groceries at Costco or shopping and things of that nature, especially where it's still really snowy out here, so we want something that's better on slick roads. And that's kind of our deciding factor in downsizing from the Expedition to the Explorer or something of that size, because we are doing so much more in-town running that the Expedition, while comfortable and nice, it's still a little bit clunky and quirky in tight spaces. But it is not going to drive like your dad's old Suburban. It is not going to drive like a pickup truck even. It has a decent turning radius, it turns quick, it accelerates crazy fast for its size especially, and it feels totally comfortable in its own skin. It maybe doesn't feel quite like a minivan, especially in terms of fuel economy, but it's pretty quick and agile for what it is. And if I was in between the Expedition and the Suburban and driving was my focus, I would 1,000% pick the Expedition. I'm on a pretty bumpy old county road too, and you can tell even at 160,000 miles, this Expedition is crazy smooth. And there she is, the beautiful 3.5 liter EcoBoost. Now let's talk about longevity a little bit with this engine. This engine is fairly easy to work on for having a twin turbocharged setup. It's also a somewhat complicated engine, And for some repairs, Ford actually takes the cab or lifts the cab off of these vehicles to work on them. The Expedition is included in that. They'll actually separate the whole body from the chassis, raising it up so that everything is exposed, because if you look here, it is kind of tight on both sides of this engine. Now, there are some mechanics that will tell you that they'll leave it in to do certain repairs, but something that is a larger repair and something that you should be aware of when purchasing or looking at these engines is the turbos, especially on the first generation 3.5. While the rest of the engine tends to be fairly bulletproof, the turbos often either burn out or start leaking from the different seals that they'll blow. And they're kind of a big deal. If I'm not mistaken, it's between $1,500 and $2,000 per side when something of that nature happens. Now, these engines are also semi-known for popping head gaskets, but I do believe that that's more under a scenario where they're under load and towing an awful lot. And something else to keep aware of, because the Expedition is so massive and has so many power options, Ford's gonna want you to put an AGM battery in them all the time. So it's also something to keep in mind, that there are a little bit more expensive maintenance costs associated with the twin turbo EcoBoost setup than with the naturally aspirated, which you cannot get in the Expedition. This is your only option if you're looking at one of these vehicles. So let's recap everything, because it's really cold and I've been kind of scatterbrained this video. I actually took a few notes here. 2015 Expedition, you're getting the powerful EcoBoost engine, a very spacious interior, limitless cargo space in this car, absolutely ideal for large families or businesses, extremely comfortable, all the creature comforts you could imagine and space that you need for long road trips and even daily driving. It's not that bad for such a massive vehicle. It's very quick, nimble, and agile, not like some of these other vehicles that some of us are used to driving if we're thinking about upgrading into one of these. Or if you're coming from a smaller SUV and your family's growing and you want to upgrade into one of these, I would highly suggest that you come test drive a few, because your mind will be blown by how nimble, agile, quick this vehicle is, even with the V6. And to cap it off on my list of pros, it also has an impressive towing capacity rated at 9,200 pounds. With the Class 5 and the integrated trailer controller, all of that, this vehicle is set up to tow even with the V6. It does absolutely amazing while towing. So don't be afraid to buy this for your camping vehicle, or if you're, working and you need to tow a little trailer around in that regard too. Now, let's talk about the downsides of the 15 Expedition. The sync technology system from Microsoft in these Ford vehicles, Sync 1, is very dated. It has a nice touchscreen radio, large backup camera. The sound system sounds decent, all of that, but you do not get Apple CarPlay, you do not get Android CarPlay or Android Auto, whatever it's called. You don't get that with Sync 1. So if you're thinking that that's an absolute must-have, try Sync 2. Also, the fuel economy could be much better. Yes, it does have the twin turbo setup with the 3.5, but you're going to average 14 to 20 miles to the gallon depending on the day. Now, much better than that Expedition that just drove by with the 5.4 Triton, but it still could be better. It's not amazing by today's standards. It's a larger vehicle, and in general, you're going to see more wear and tear on them in the higher mileage models, because families have lived in these. This one has 160,000 miles and one accident on the record, and it is not perfect by any means. Families have lived in these, they've torn them up a little bit, and if you're looking for this generation, this price point, they probably are all going to be somewhat higher models, or mileage models, because they're kind of a family road trip vehicle as well. Overall, is a 2015 or 2007 to 17 Expedition model year generation good in 2025? I would say yes, but if you are looking at this generation of Expedition, stay away from anything 2013 and below. You want it to have the 3.5 liter EcoBoost in it, not the 5.4 Triton, but overall, yes. This drives like a modern vehicle. It feels like a modern vehicle. It has so many comfort features built into it that it feels like a modern vehicle, even with the outdated Sync 1. Yes, I would highly recommend these in 2025, keeping in mind the cons or the negative sides to that, and test driving a ton of these before I make a purchase decision. With all of that said, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I have now reviewed everything from the Ford Focus all the way up to the behemoth of this Expedition, which my wife and I have absolutely loved having over the last 3 years, and today it's going away. So this is probably going to be the only video that I make on it. In a future video, I may talk about the common issues that these have and their common failures, things to watch out for. So if you're interested in that or any of the other content that I mentioned, make sure you subscribe to the channel below and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on future videos. Again, thank you so much for watching. And if this video helped you, make sure you drop a like, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.